I never imagined an Apache woman would save my family from a wagon train massacre. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. It was supposed to be a fresh start, a journey across the vast, untamed land, filled with dreams and hopes. But instead, it became a nightmare. I could hear the whisper of the wind through the tall grass, a soft lullaby that felt haunting. My heart raced as I clutched my mother's hand, her palm trembling, just like my own. Daniel, my younger brother, sat wide-eyed in the wagon, innocent to the impending chaos. He was always a beacon of light, but that day, even his laughter felt dimmed by fear. Our wagon train was tight-knit. Families, friends, all bundled together, trusting each other. But lurking in the shadows was a threat we couldn't see. The days blurred into nights of anxiety, and every creak in the wheels sent chills down my spine. An eerie silence fell over the group when a shadow flickered at the edge of our camp. I watched as a whispering wind danced through their faces, spreading unease like wildfire. That night, I couldn't shake the feeling that something terrible awaited us. I stayed up late, listening to the hush, when suddenly, like a jolt, the silence shattered. It was screams and chaos. Horses whinnied in terror, and the unmistakable sound of a gunshot echoed in the air. I froze, terror pooling in my stomach. In the darkness, bandits appeared like ghosts. They wore ragged clothes that blended with the night. Their faces were shrouded, I could only see the glint of eyes filled with malice. My heart felt like it was pounding out of my chest. I squeezed Daniel's hand, praying it wouldn't be the last time I felt his warmth. But then, out of nowhere, she emerged. An Apache woman, fierce and striking, standing tall in the chaos. She moved like a wisp of smoke, unpredictable, fierce. Her presence was electric, a life force shooting through our frightened group. I could hardly believe my eyes as she wielded her spear with grace, fierce resolve igniting a fire in her core. The night erupted into a cacophony of noise. Gasps, cries, the stench of fear hung thick in the air. She stood her ground. I could feel my breath hitching, the weight of uncertainty suffocating me. Who was she? What drove her to fight alongside us? The battle raged on, and I found myself caught in a whirlwind of emotions: fear for my family, awe at her bravery, helplessness in the horrors unfolding. One by one, the attackers fell back, startled, as the Apache woman danced through the chaos. Around us, mingled with panic, was a strange sense of hope. But just as victory appeared within reach, the unthinkable happened. A figure broke through the smoke. One of the bandits was getting up again, and it felt like time slowed. I could hardly breathe as I gasped, "No." I saw her turning. A sudden twist shattered my heart. Where would we end up next? Would we survive this night? And who was really saving whom? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The night stretched on, a tapestry of chaos woven with fear and hope. I stood frozen, heart pounding against my ribs, my gaze fixed on the Apache woman's fierce resolve. The bandit who had risen was a blur of motion, and my instinct screamed for action, but I felt paralyzed by the gravity of the scene unfolding before me. Just when I thought all was lost, there was a flash of Silvera knife sailing through the air in a beautiful, deadly arc. It found its mark, striking the bandit dangerously close to the heart. I could hardly breathe as he collapsed, the life draining from him in a swift, merciless fashion. The Apache woman, panting but unyielding, turned to face the remaining attackers who had begun to retreat under the fierce protection of our unexpected warrior. In that moment, as the dust settled and the shouts of both the attackers and defenders faded, a tension still hung thick in the air. I dared to hope, a fragile thread that began to weave itself through the remnants of my shattered heart. I'd survived, we had survived for now. The stars above us blinked like distant memories, and the camp, once trembling with fear, now cradled a strange, tentative sense of safety. Are you all right? I rushed to my mother, taking her hands between my own, scanning her face for signs of pain. The anxiety in her eyes shifted to surprise. The Apache woman, she saved us, she whispered, her voice trembling with both disbelief and awe, but I couldn't fully grasp the weight of our survival. My heart ached for those lost, and for the first time, I felt angry with fate. Why us? Why did we deserve all this pain? And what had this woman sacrificed? As we gathered our scattered belongings, I caught sight of the Apache woman again. She stood apart from us, watching with a fierce intensity, her breathing heavy. An aura of mystery surrounded her, filled with stories untold. Daniel, drawn to her like a moth to a flame, stepped closer. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice slightly shaky but bright. She looked at him, a flicker of surprise softening her fierce expression. "Nayeli," she replied, the name rolling off her tongue with a melody that lingered in the night air. "Nayeli," I echoed, cherishing the sound of her name. It felt significant, monumental, as if acknowledging her existence was an act of respect, a connection forged in the heat of battle. But the respite was short-lived. The night air hummed with something ominous, and the low rustle of tall grass hinted at shadows still lurking nearby. Fear pierced the small victory we felt, a reminder that danger remained in the air, waiting to strike. "Take refuge in the woods," Nayeli instructed us, her intuition sharper than our own. "Follow the trees, stay quiet. I will watch your backs." A delve into the surrounding forest. My heart sank, suddenly much heavier. What about the fragile haven we'd just established? I wanted to scream at the unfairness of it all, to fight against the tide of terror threatening to sweep us away again, but I had to protect Daniel. I had to ensure my mother was safe, her delicate spirit already worn thin from the horrors of this journey. With a nod, I resolved to follow Nayeli's guidance. That we gathered what we could: a few blankets, a small stash of food. I saw my mother eyeing the remains of our supplies with despair, and I braced for the hurt that would stem from eating only what was necessary. But Nayeli had given us a chance. It was our only choice. As we moved into the dim cover of the trees, I caught a brief glimpse of Nayeli, a silhouette against the glimmering stars. She was an anchor in the storm, but little did we know, the storm was far from over. Moments slipped away as we navigated through the dense woods, the haunting shadows tugging at my fears. Then I felt a tug at my shirt, a tentative gesture from Daniel. "Can we trust her?" he whispered, wide-eyed, his innocence still unbroken despite the chaos around us. My heart sank again as I struggled for an answer. I wanted to assure him, to tell him everything would be okay, that bravery was key. But could I truly trust the woman who had saved us? Just as I opened my mouth to respond, a sudden shout rang out from deep within the trees, a sound dripping with urgency and terror. "Get down!" Nayeli's commanding voice pierced through the night, and without thinking, I pulled Daniel close, instinct kicking in as the shadows around us stirred ominously. "Run!" she ordered, and my heart dropped into my stomach. The danger we thought we had escaped was stalking us once more. As we dashed through the underbrush, a chilling realization hit me: trust was a luxury we could not afford. The cliffs of uncertainty loomed over us, and in that vortex of fear, I struggled to stabilize my own belief that we would survive this nightmare. Just ahead, a glimmer of hope glinted in the distance, but hope can be a dangerous thing, especially in the midst of despair. And there, just before the forest opened up to a clearing, I glimpsed something horrific: a lone figure, one I recognized all too well. My heart thudded painfully in my chest, as the shadows of our past wove themselves into the fabric of our already treacherous reality. The figure stepped forward, half illuminated by the weak moonlight that filtered through the treetops. My breath caught in my throat, and panic infused my veins like fire. It was Jake, the bandit who had led the assault, his face smeared with the remnants of the battle. He seemed to move with a confidence that spilled over from his cruel smile, blending the wildness in his eyes like embers of a smoldering fire rekindled. "No!" I gasped, my voice barely a whisper as I felt Daniel press against me, sensing my fear. I wanted to run, wanted to flee the nightmare before us, but my feet felt rooted to the ground, paralyzed by the return of this monster. Nayeli stepped in front of us, her posture uncompromising, and I felt a flicker of hope at her fierce determination. "Stay behind me," she commanded, eyes locked on Jake, her body tense like a taut string ready to snap. "Ah, the protector has returned, has she?" Jake leered, his voice slick and mocking. For a moment, I thought he might slip back into the shadows, that our answering fury had sent him fleeing. But he didn't. He stepped forward instead, a predator circling its prey. "You think you can save these pathetic souls?" He gestured dismissively at us, the cruel amusement palpable. "Step away from them, Jake," Nayeli said, her tone icy and unwavering. "They have nothing to do with your vendetta against me." His laughter was a low rumble, vibrating through the atmosphere filled with trembling leaves. "And yet, they found themselves caught up in this tragic web, didn't they? You think you're their savior, but the forest has eyes. It tells tales of your past. There's blood on your hands too, isn't there?" A cold sweat trickled down my back, realigning shards of doubt and despair in my chest. What did he mean? How could this fierce warrior have a history like his? Nayeli flinched but quickly regained composure. "You know nothing of honor or sacrifice," she shot back, her voice steady but quivering at the edges. "Stand down, or you'll meet your end here." That I watched as she braced herself, forming a solid line between Jake and my family. The glory etched on her frame, her bravery, her fierce spirit was all that anchored me. Sensing my mother's trembling beside me, I squeezed her hand tightly, desperate to offer the comfort I couldn't articulate. Jake tilted his head, more intrigued than threatened. "You think a single Apache can stand against me? I've faced whole tribes and come out victorious." He took a step closer, a perverse delight weaving itself through his features. "But what's more interesting? I have information that could shatter you. You can't protect your family from everything." That a knot twisted in my stomach. What could he possibly know? "My brother," he continued, his voice now a sinister whisper, "the one you couldn't save, he's alive. In fact, he's close by. I can bring you to him," he baited, his eyes glinting like steel. The ground shifted beneath my feet. It was a whirlwind of emotions, betrayal, confusion, and faint hope swirling within me. "What are you talking about?" He smirked, relishing in the turmoil he incited. "He's just as feeble as you are, except he understands the world better than you ever could. I could show you where he is. You could save him, but first, well, let's see how much you're willing to sacrifice." No. Nayeli snapped, her voice dripping with anger, cutting through my reverie. "Your hollow threats will not bend us." But I felt her fierce exterior was cracking under the weight of Jake's revelation. Fear clawed at my insides, trying to drown out the flicker of hope. Was Daniel's brother really alive? The thoughts twisted together, making my head spin. I searched Nayeli for some sign of understanding. Even she might have her demons, but her face remained impassive, resolute in the face of darkness. I looked back to Jake, struck by a sudden wave of horror. If he were telling the truth, what kind of monster had I unleashed into our lives? And the more pressing question, was I truly ready to betray everything I stood for to save someone I barely knew? The moment before us hung suffocatingly in the air. Precipice we teetered over, leading into an abyss of unending choices. As my heart hammered painfully, I realized there were no easy paths. Hope surged like a tide, but it threatened to drown me in despair. "Run!" Nayeli suddenly ordered again, pulling me closer to her. "We'll deal with this later." Her voice cracked, and in that moment, the churning winds of fate kicked back with renewed ferocity. With adrenaline surging, I turned, grabbing Daniel's hand, determination propelling me forward. As we fled into the depths of the darkened forest, I knew that every step taken only intertwined our fates deeper into the treacherous web, and perhaps I was leading us all to something worse. But one thing clawed at me, an ember igniting in my chest. I could not let go of hope, even when darkness gathered like a storm, threatening to singe the very fabric of my heart. And as we sprinted into the night, a haunting thought echoed in the recesses of my mind: was I willing to sacrifice it all for the impossible? The answer lay tangled within the shadows that trailed us, forever igniting questions that burned hotter than lust for vengeance. The forest loomed like a suffocating cloak as we dashed through its depths, branches clawing at our skin while the night air turned frigid and hostile. Each footfall felt heavier than the last, and with every breath, the weight of Jake's revelation hung over me like a dark cloud, unshakable and suffocating. "Go. Faster," Nayeli urged, her urgency lighting a fire under us, stoking our fears but also fueling our resolve. I felt Daniel tugging my arm, trying to keep pace with my faltering steps, his face a blend of confusion and dread. Why would he lie? Daniel panted, breaking the strained silence that swallowed us. What if he's telling the truth? I dared not answer, for the uncertainty gnawed at my insides, a relentless tide of questions crashing against the fragile shores of my hope. How could I grapple with the possibility that my brother-in-law, lost in the depths of time, might somehow be alive? The thought sparked a tiny flame of longing, but was it one I could trust? What else had Jake twisted into his malevolent narrative? "We need to stop," I said, breathless as we skidded to a halt, the shadows hiding our flickering emotions. Nayeli remained at the front, eyes scanning our surroundings like an animal aware of the hunt. "No," she hissed, fierce determination radiating from her. "We can't stop until we're far away from him." A rustle of leaves interrupted our panic. Our hearts stopped as we held our breath, searching the dark with wide eyes. Were we being followed? A chill crept up my spine, and I felt Daniel clutch my arm tighter. I scanned the darkness, every sound amplified, every shadow a threat. Then, from the treetops, a soft hoot cut through the tension, a reassuring call echoing between the branches, a distant guardian watching over us. It was just an owl, but it brought a momentary sense of comfort amidst the chaos gripping my heart. "What if it's true, Casey?" Daniel whispered, breaking the weight of my silence. "What if Jake knows something? My brother, what if we could get him back? What if no?" The word shot out of my mouth with a surprising fierceness that momentarily froze him. I was terrified, not only for the danger surrounding us but also for the path this conversation was heading down. "We can't trust anything he says. He thrives in chaos, he feeds off our fear." Daniel's face contorted, uncertainty and frustration battling for dominance. "Can't you just consider it? Finding him could change everything for us, for you, for your family." A crack erupted from the left, indiscernible in its nature, but it stirred the forest's depths, amplifying our nerves. Nayeli turned sharply, her instincts on high alert, and I couldn't shake the violent tremor coursing through me. The clash of conflicting emotions was drowning me. What if saving someone means losing everything else? We barely escaped him once. I won't risk our lives again. Your brother-in-law could help us. Daniel pressed, desperation clouding his voice. A memory danced at the edge of my consciousness, a haunting snapshot of laughter we shared in the sunlight, a man intertwined in the history of our family, yet a stranger to everything I had grown to believe in. The hope of his existence loomed like a mirage, beautiful yet insubstantial. Nayeli saw the flickering of doubt in my eyes and stepped closer, the fire in her spirit igniting sparks of revelation within me. "This isn't about what Jake offers. It's about strength, not just bonds of blood or battles slain. The truth might be painful, but our hearts remain our compass. Can we truly trust we're not lost already?" I pushed back, the urgency of survival mixing with clashing desires. What about the darkness that Jake brings? What if we're meant to confront it, and it consumes us? Just then, a faint rustling blossomed behind us, and I turned, heart racing as I sensed something closing in. The moon dipped behind unseen clouds, drawing a curtain of shadow that seemed to swallow the forest whole. Nayeli raised her bow, but I couldn't take my eyes off the encroaching darkness. With every step the noise grew louder, rhythmically overlaid with heavy breaths that weren't ours. I took a half-step back, dread coiling tighter in my limbs, as an unmistakable shape emerged from the foliage, a band of figures, silhouettes steeped in menace. "No!" I gasped, choking on fear, heart hammering with a fresh bout of terror. We need to run. But I felt frozen, paralyzed with the looming threat of fresh danger before us. Step back. Nayeli commanded, and I obeyed, her strength casting a barrier of determination around us. The figures stepped closer, and I realized it wasn't Jake at all but a different group, an Tyrellian unfamiliar band, perhaps another faction, but they wore the signs of fury and hunger, hungry eyes fixated on us with a sense of entitlement. As the suffocating darkness drew nearer, the reality of our predicament crashed over me like waves. This moment, the hope I clung taut at, fragile strand leading back to Daniel's brother, now teetered perilously on the edge of despair. "Who's with us?" One of the figures called, and the question rang through the clearing like the tolling of a bell, promising danger and uncertainty. My heart sank. We had no way of knowing friend from foe in this grim landscape of shifting alliances, and in that moment, I understood our foundations were cracking beneath us. With the enemy rushing toward us and nowhere left to retreat, the knife edge of fate lingered in the air, a heavy burden set upon our fragile bonds, teetering without warning. What had begun as a flicker of hope was now being threatened by a wildfire of chaos, fiercely dancing around us, begging for a resolution yet destined for darkness. The path forward was littered with shadows, each choice leading us deeper into the maze of distrust and peril. As the tightening grip of fate closed around us, one question echoed louder than the rest: were we truly ready to step into the fire for a chance at salvation? The answer lay just beyond reach, concealed behind layers of anguish and uncertainty. The air was electric, thick with the tension of uncertainty as the figures advanced. Each step they took echoed like a drumbeat of dread within my heart, amplifying the clamor of our frantic minds. I could barely process the faces creeping into view, fey and war-weary, their eyes glittering with a hunger that went beyond mere survival. They were fierce, unyielding, and not here to play games. "Please, we don't want trouble." Nayeli called out, her voice steady though I could see her knuckles whiten as she gripped her weapon. Daniel and I stood frozen, the reality of our choices collapsing in on itself, strangling any hope we had of escape. "Why should we believe you?" The leader of the group retorted, lips curling into a sneer. He stepped forward, muscular and imposing, a figure carved from shadows and suspicion. "The forest is ours tonight, and you are trespassers. You've come to our land without permission." That I flicked a glance at Nayeli, and our eyes locked for a fleeting moment. Fear twisted in my gut, but a flicker of defiance sparked in her. I knew her well enough by now to understand that surrendering was not in her nature, not when there was a fight left to be fought. "Look, we don't mean any harm," I piped up, scrambling to find the words that might suit their hostility. "We're searching for someone who's lost. He could be in danger, just like we are." The leader's expression shifted slightly, and I dared to hope I glimpsed a hint of empathy, a recognition of shared desperation.